This is the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. We're on Xbox Series X taking a look at this legendary entry in the Elder Scrolls series, and it seems like almost every release in this franchise is a legendary release. And with that, we're getting a 4K resolution, 30 FPS, and auto HDR. The loading is greatly improved, which is fantastic, and yeah, this is generally still a very gorgeous game. And I'm joined by
Kevin, Kane2222.
and we're going to be talking about this fourth main entry in the series, I guess you would say. Just tell us, where does our quest and or journey begin?
You start in the Imperial City prison with Tiber Septim and his two blade bodyguards coming through using your cell as an entrance to escape the city. And you end up getting bailed out with them. You follow along, and then eventually a bunch of cultists jump you out of nowhere, and they end up killing the Emperor on you. And then the Blades member, Boris or Barris or whatever his fine name is, ends up telling you that you gotta go let the Blades captain know what has happened and that the Emperor is dead. And he hands you the Amulet of Kings, letting you know that there is an heir.
That sounds like an interesting kind of way to get things going. And at that point, I guess you just get to kind of explore this world. Tell us a bit about the locations we get to go to and the places we find along the way.
It's a beautiful land, lots of rolling hills. It gets a little more swampy when you go down south near Leowin and stuff, which obviously is closer to like the Black Marsh and elsewhere. It's affected on the regions of where you go and who borders closest to who you see the most. By Cheydinhal, they have a dark elf count who's in charge. If you go up north near the Burma, near the borders of Skyrim, there's lots of Nords, obviously, you see, and it gets a little more snowy around that region, so a lot of different environments you can go to.
What is your favorite place in Oblivion?
Probably around Cheydinhal or down near Skingrad in the vineyards. It's just such beautiful rolling hills, couple rivers here and there going through. The caves are absolutely really neat, creepy soundtrack following through.
Sounds excellent. So tell us a bit, obviously because this is an RPG game, character customization, personalization, stuff like that.
Obviously you can select all the races in the Elder Scrolls. A lot of the basic classes, like you can be a mage, battle mage. Thief is probably one of my favorite to do in that storyline. Also, if you're going to be an assassin with the Dark Brotherhood. Warrior's obviously pretty basic.
So, most of them have some sort of guild type system. Is that present here?
Yes, obviously the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, very neat storylines. The Thieves Guild, which was super fun. You run around and try to take over to become the Grey Fox. Dark Brotherhood's really neat. In the first sanctuary you go to, there's a vampire who offers to turn you into a vampire right away. Very neat being a vampire. If you drink blood, you become more human looking. The longer you go without blood, the more demonic and dead looking you get. You fall asleep and wake up to just the creepiest description of nightmares. There was one where there's like some woman or whatever, and you reach into her casket and she bites in your hand, and as you pull away, your hand rips and you wake up screaming. And really neat descriptions.
Sounds like a lot of fun. So tell us, what were some of the memorable main quests that you to take part in?
Becoming the hero of Kvatch is a very fun quest. You end up getting called out by it for your title by everyone you talk to in that game, basically, after it. It's also where you meet the heir to the Septim bloodline, Martin. The Grey Fox quest was very, very fun, where you're trying to sneak into the Imperial Palace, of all places, to steal an Elder Scroll, which was absolutely wonderful. Yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff. The Dark Brotherhood has a very neat twist with some guy trying to get revenge, and he's doing a Norman thing, keeping his mother's head around, talking to it.
Sounds like an absolute blast. So where does this fit into the overall Elder Scrolls series?
Fits in, I believe it's the end of the Third Era. And it really sets up the storyline for Skyrim with the way the bloodline works. It turns out that the Septim bloodline goes all the way back to Talos, and that wearing the Amulet of Kings keeps basically Oblivion and all the Daedra from coming away. And you do the storyline where Martin ends up giving up his life to, become Akatosh and fight Mehrunes' dragon, which is probably the coolest visual thing that happens in that game. And it ends up ending the Septon bloodline, which leads into the Aldmeri Dominion getting power, and obviously the Great War that followed after that, that leads to the Crisis in Skyrim in the next game. It really sets the tone for the franchise going forward.
That sounds like some really intense and epic moments that, yeah, they sound pretty cool. Now, with that, what type of weapons and armor can you get a hold of?
You can get swords and axes and maces. I believe axes and maces all go into blunt weapons. It's a little more simplified than, say, Morrowind. But a lot of neat weapons. You can conjure your own weapons, which look absolutely fabulous. One of my favorite parts. The armor's very neat. Very basic. You go from iron to steel to ebony to... I believe Daedric is the last one. And then there's your light armor classes, where glass is probably one of the nicest looking armors in the game, actually.
So do you have any preferred setups that you would suggest someone to try while playing?
An interesting thing that you can do is, if you want to get into the enchanting and be kind of like a battle mage, you can do chameleon on yourself. There is no invisibility spell, but if you put like 20% chameleon enchantment on each piece of your armor, you'll be completely chameleoned and invisible for the entire game. And it's quite hilarious, actually. You can walk up to some of the biggest monsters in the game, hit them, and they'll try swing at you, finding you, and you'll run away, and they have no clue what you're doing. You can run up and steal things right in front of people. You basically have the ring of power like the Hobbit, and you're just hiding from everyone the whole game. That's probably my favorite thing I'd recommend to anyone to try.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So we talked a little bit about magic. Could you fully dive into what sort of spell casting we have here?
Yeah, a lot of the basic, your illusion, alteration, destruction pass, the attack fire, the attack magic's very basic. You do fire bolts, lightning, or frost. Not a whole lot to it, but it is very fun. Like, especially if you're going with the Mages Guild, they'll let you customize your own staff and everything. And when you end up fighting the Necromancers who are fighting the Mages Guild, you can even get a staff from the Worm King that allows you to reincarnate dead people for like 30-40 seconds, and when they're done they sparkle down to ash. But that's probably one of the neater tricks in the game too for magic.
Oh, that sounds like some pretty cool spells that you can unleash. What types of enemies are you generally finding in the game, and are there any like big foes that you'd like to highlight as being really cool?
Minotaurs are very neat in that game. Ogres are very cool themselves. There is, I can't remember the Daedric Prince's name, but he ends up helping, he wants you to go free these ogres that have been taken slave by this one family, and when you, at the end of the quest, the ogres end up taking over the farm and making the people work for them, which was hilarious. The ogres are really one of the neater parts. All the Daedria are very neat in that game.
So how do you get around in the game? How do you travel? What sort of, options do you have for getting further along in the big world?
There is a fast travel, which is very nice to have. Running's very simple. There are horses you can get, and if you go do the main quest, talking to the Blades, they gave you a very nice looking painted horse right off the bat, and really helps you get along. I know there is a DLC where you can even get armor for your horse, which ends up looking very cool, but that's probably your main way of transportation in it.
So with that, what are the DLC options?
There is the Knights of the Nine DLC, which is really neat. You basically go make your own round table of knights, and you end up fighting this Daedric prince or lord or creature trying to break through and mess with Tamriel. And my favorite DLC, the Shivering Isles, which is probably my favorite DLC of any Elder Scrolls game, where Sheogorath ends up makes a portal outside of Leyawiin. And you end up going through it, and you talk to Sheogorath, who is a big fan of cheese, might I add. And he ends up, basically, you figure out he's grooming you because you get to choose between becoming a count or a duchess of dementia or mania, the two sides of madness. And then as you carry on, he explains that there is a Daedric Prince Jiggalad who is coming, who eventually you figure out is Sheogorath, that Jiggalad was the Daedric Prince of Order, and that all the Daedric princes and princesses ended up fearing him, so they trapped Jiggalad into this crazy Sheogorath shell, and you end up freeing him, and Jiggalad thanks you for it, and he actually ends up making you Sheogorath, the prince of, or princess of, the Shivering Isles, which was absolutely amazing. And I guess even in Skyrim, when you talk to the statue, he ends up mentioning something about a gray fox and stuff like that, which is in reference to the Thieves Guild quest line, suggesting that your character from Oblivion is Sheogorath in Skyrim, which is probably one of the neatest callbacks I've ever seen from that series.
Yeah, that's a really cool kind of moment to have kind of called back in a later entry. It's nice that the Elder Scrolls are sort of this like timeline that keeps growing, because you have all these fun long-term moments and stuff. I guess with that, you know, we talked about main missions, but are there any side quests or smaller little lore things that you find or came across that you thought were really memorable?
Yes, the vampire quest line is one of the neatest. When you become a vampire, you can be a vampire through the whole game, but if you want to cure it, you end up going to the Count of Skingrad, who sends you to a witch who apparently knows the cure to vampirism. And as you do this quest and you get the potion, you end up going up to the Count, and the Count, you end up learning the story that him and his wife had turned into vampires, and that the Count could deal with it, but his wife went into a Great Depression, so he puts her to sleep. And you learn that the potion is not for him, but it's for his wife, and it's a really touching moment where he ends up waking her up, and she thanks him for the potion, and after she drinks it, she catches up with age, and she dies on the spot, and the Count ends up thanking you, and you cure your vampirism too. But it's probably one of the sweeter, neat twists, side quests in the game, actually.
The game has a lot of like interactive points. What are some of the more fun little places you can go and do something silly or fun in?
A couple interesting things you can go see. There's like the skooma den that you can go bust in Leo in, which is kind of funny. A bunch of Khajiit in there hiding out selling skooma. A couple little things. There's like side quests that carry on. Once you finish with the Dark Brotherhood, you end up becoming the Silencer, or actually it's the Listener, and you talk to the Night Mother every now and then, as creepy as she is, and she gives you quests to go slay people, but just little things that keep the story going after you finish whatever side quest or guild you're done.
So would you say there's a fair amount of like things you can do after you're done that main quest?
Yes, there is. Just the DLC alone is very neat. But that's even interesting, like with the Shivering Isles. There are little like decrees and things like that you can do depending on who you go with. Like the Shivering Isles will be attacked and you can go take care of it yourself, or you can have the Golden Saint army come help you. A lot of interesting little things you can do after the game if you want to play around with your character a bit more.
With that, you know, if they were to do like a remaster or a remake, are there any changes you'd like to see in this one?
I'd like them to add flying, but I don't think they'd ever do that again.
Other than that, I imagine you're pretty happy
But
with what this is.
other than that, yeah, it's an absolutely amazing game. I would be blown away to see what more they could do with it graphic-wise, because it's still beautiful and stands to this day. But yeah, other than that, it's an amazing addition to the series.
Would you say that it might work with co-op, or do you feel that this should stay a single-player experience?
I think that one would probably work a little more with co-op. It's very basic. It would be interesting, though, because you are the hero of Kvatch and all that, so it'd be kind of funny to see who's this random follower going along with you. But that would be fun to see.
Okay, now with that, let's wrap things up. Anything else you want to mention about the game, or just a summary chat about, you know, what you think of Oblivion?
It's an amazing game that I spent many hours as a kid with. There's so many storylines. The bloodline's really neat to figure out. It's actually really interesting because obviously you're your main character, but when you really think of it, it's more Martin's tale and him trying to use the Amulet of Kings and stop the connection between Oblivion. You're kind of the side character along in the story, making it all happen, which was kind of one of the neater things in the story.
Alright, thank you for joining in and chatting about the game.
Thank you very much for having me.
There's no time to talk now, prisoner.
Not much farther.
I follow the Emperor's orders. Yo! That the best you can do? The Emperor's in
Prisoner,
Mara's mercy
This is
on
the
them.
part.
God for the Empire!
This one's mine! Protect the Emperor! Hold up. I don't like this. Let me take a look. Looks clear. Come on. We're almost through to the sewers. Damn it! The gate is barred from the other side. A trap!
What about that side passage back there?
Worth a try. Let's go.
It's a dead end. What's your call, sir?
They're behind us. Wait here, sire.
Wait here with the Emperor. Guard him with your life.
For the Emperor!
For the Emperor!
Come with us. Your destiny is bound.
You thought we'd go down easy?
Told you to stick with the Emperor.
I can go no further. You alone must stand against the Prince of Destruction and his mortal servants. He must not have the Amulet of Kings. Take the amulet, give it to Joffrey. He alone knows where to find my last son. Find him and close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
Oblivion take you. Do you? Die, you squirrel! No. We failed. I failed. The amulet. Where's the... Strange. They say it's the dragon blood. The amulet of king. The amulet... Nothing I ever heard about. But Joffrey would... First, you need to get out of here. There... I thought... Leave the Emperor. Leave the Emperor in peace.
Yeah. Oh. Huh. Yeah. Oh. Oh.
I thought my crab's more fierce than you.
Ah!